What's up, guys? Dragon here with a fun little mod tutorial. We're going to start off with a good beginner mod. Now, a good mod to start off with is the Retaliator. Pretty easy to mod, not a ton of moving parts and complicated catch mechanisms and parts that have been solvent welded and all kinds of garbage like that. No, the Retaliator is pretty easy to modify and still pretty widely available in thrift locations, possibly still online. If you go on Amazon, there might be some options, or a very similar kind of cousin blaster, the Recon Mark II, I believe is still available on Amazon. It's a modulus blaster that I think is pretty much identical to the Retaliator here internally. This is going to be the necessary hardware. Number one, a Retaliator, of course. It's got to be a Retaliator. Any coloration will do. There's a blue one, there's this one, there might even be an orange one. I'm not 100% on that, but there's different colorations. It's just got to be a Retaliator. Recons will not do unless it's a Recon Mark II. Next, you are going to need a long and skinny flathead screwdriver, a long and skinny Phillips head screwdriver, not flathead, Phillips. This is the size of mine, as long as it is able to get down into the screw ports and remove the screw. Any size will do. That'll fit down there and remove the screw. Like I said, that just happens to be the one I have. Next is Teflon tape, just a little bit. You don't need a lot. That is to tighten up the air seal to get a little bit of a performance boost in case we're losing air, that kind of thing. A little bit goes a long way. I'm also gonna put a spring upgrade in here, and no, we're not going to be upgrading the Tech 6. This thing on its own is pretty garbage. But the spring inside here is a great option for upgrading this. And if you pick up this at a thrift store, you might also find one of these. I picked this guy up, $1.50, a little more than I wanted to pay, but it's a great spring upgrade. You can go on websites like Out of Darts, Worker, even Amazon in some cases, and find upgrade springs for Retaliator. You can get whatever you would like. I'm just going with the Tech 6 because it's easy, and maybe you wanted to thrift and make the whole project a thrift project. Anyway, one more thing is going to be a drill. Now, I am going to remove the air restrictor, but I am going to say that with an asterisk. I'm going to say that you aren't going to want to do that in every case. The reason why I am doing that with this particular mod is, one, I want to be able to potentially do half darts. Now, it will not take a half dart mag in its current configuration, but it might in the future. I would like to see it, see what happens. I might also try my Aeon Pro half dart mag adapter that fits in a full-length magazine well, and see if that changes anything. It would be cool if it worked. I would also like to do that too, because it is going to get a performance increase. Now, it's not going to be 30 FPS increase because you remove the air restrictor, but you might get 5 to 10 to maybe 15 FPS increase because you took out the air restrictor. It is going to make it a little bit more fragile, fragile as they say down in Italy. So I'm going to try to pad the plunger tube. I have some little furniture pads that fit almost perfectly on a majority of the Nerf plunger tubes, plunger rods that I have modified. I've been able to pad them with these particular furniture pads, and they're sticky and they stick on there and they seem to work pretty good. If I can find out where they went, that is what I'm going to use. That concludes the hardware and intro section. Now on to a quick firing demo and FPS reading on the stock Retaliator. Now, guys, remember, don't eat the darts. We're going to just do 3 here, a sampling of 3, possibly more, because if you've ever used a chronograph or seen chronograph reading videos, it's not exactly the most scientifically accurate one shot to the next. You kind of have to do a sampling to get an average, and sometimes these things are just kind of off. This is a airsoft chronograph, so again, it's meant for that tiny little BB. Might actually work pretty good with rifle. I'll have to check that out. But it's what I got. 77.6. That is actually pretty accurate. Elite par is, of course, 70 FPS. So that one is pretty believable. 58.6. That one I think was actually a really bad dart I had that was kind of bent. So again, pretty accurate. And 62.5, pretty accurate. And like I said, right around that 70 FPS par, darts do matter. That was just kind of a sampling. I think I had a FVJ cheap dart, a Adventure Force waffle head dart, and I think another Adventure Force waffle head dart. Anyway, that's the FPS stock. Let's get to modding. All right, so the next step, of course, would be to remove the screws. Through the magic of editing, that's already been done for us. And that's what the inside of a retaliator looks like. First thing you're gonna wanna do is take that stock spring, chuck it, no, don't chuck it in the garbage. Use that for something else. Keep it. Keep the spring. You're gonna remove your catch, set it off to the side in a safe place. Remove your plunger tube. Again, keep this in a safe place. Remove your plunger rod and bolt sled. This part can be a little tricky, but not too bad. You don't want to lose this little guy if you want to use tack rail attachments. You don't want to lose that. Okay. That kind of concludes the breakdown section. Now on to the modding. Okay. Now that we're on to modding, we're going to go with the removal of the air restrictor first. So the things you're going to need for this, of course, are your plunger tube and your drill. Now this is not exactly an exact science, exactly. And it can get a little bit messy. But the idea here is stick your drill down in there until you kind of make contact with the dart post and with the back of the air restrictor, and just kind of start drilling to get some of the plastic garbage out just like that. We got a straight shot through now, but we do still have to get out that spring and some of the other garbage. So we'll be back through the magic of editing. We did have to employ the additional hardware of this flathead screwdriver and a mallet, but it is now a straight shot through. Air restrictor is removed. And I'm gonna say that for beginners, I would not recommend removing the air restrictor. It's not worth it. I'm not saying that I'm an expert. I'm just saying the pain is not worth it. And you can break your blaster. I've done a little bit of damage. I've definitely bent the, I don't know what this is called, but I've bent the plastic a little bit. We're gonna move on to wrapping the seals up a little bit, making them a little tighter. All right, so in this section, we're gonna try to make the air seals a little tighter. We're gonna see how good the air seal is here. A little bit of room that we can improve. And then on the plunger rod, definitely some room that we can improve. So we're gonna take the plunger rod first, and we're going to wrap it with a little bit of our Teflon tape. What I recommend you do is you just get a little bit here. You kind of twist it up a little bit, and you get underneath your rubber washer, and you just kind of wrap a little bit until it's a good seal. You just kind of have to test it out. I'm gonna say that is enough, and I'm gonna test it out now and see if that has improved the seal, in fact. Yes, you don't want to go too hard because it is going to inhibit the thing from sliding forward. I am going to use a little bit of tube grease. I have some, so I'm definitely going to use some. Now on this looks a little bit trickier. I actually don't need it here now that I remember, because this is just pushing it back. So only the plunger rod. We're good. Moving on. So it appears I cannot find my furniture pads for padding the plunger tube or the plunger rod. So I'm going to do that in a future video as a follow-up. But let's get to reassembly. So many ways to skin a cat here. You really can kind of do this in any order. What I guess I would recommend, or what I'm going to do, is I'm going to put the bolt sled in first. You have to line it up with this little peg there. Goes in this hole here. So pretty straightforward. It's not hard. There's grooves for things. And there are locks in here that you can also disengage. Things like it'll allow you to remove the magazine without it being primed back fully, which is good for certain things. I'm not going to do any of that here. Just, again, a very basic beginner mod for some performance increase. So the bolt sled is back. Let's slide that forward. Okay. Next, we're going to put in the plunger tube. Believe that is the right. There's these little tabs here. I believe those face up, not down. And then, of course, your little pegs that you line up in the groove. That groove there. Now, one of the crappy parts about modding is keeping it all together. And I'm running into that a little bit here. Lots of little catch springs and other springs that just want to spring. So that is an annoying thing about modding that I'm going to say right now. Put my upgraded spring right in there. Catch. Just kind of have to move around that. And again, you could have put that first. I just find that easier to do it after you get the plunger tube in there. But you can kind of do this however you want. Put that little guy back. Slap-a-dap-a-do that back in there. And one thing that you may find out is when you try to push it together, it may not want to go if you do this. Sometimes that's why it does not want to push down, is it's the magazine release is like it's catching on something. All right, we'll put the screws back in and show you it modified. You know, I was just thinking about how when you watch these mod videos, they don't show you the failures and the tinkering and the tearing it apart and putting it back together. Well, I just had a failure and I had to show this. An important note: the little grooves face down, not up. It's an addendum. I should have been paying attention when I tore this thing apart. I didn't. I've done retaliators in the past, got a little cocky and thought I could do it, but the fin on the plunger tube faces down. It disengages locks. Now we're going to get it put back together and we'll show it firing. Fin faces down. Important addendum: the fin faces down. Whew, okay, so plastic carnage aside and addendums because you can't remember how blasters go back together, it's done. And it works pretty good. We'll see if we can get a accurate chronograph test a second time. There will be another addendum further down the road when I get some more things to pad the plunger heads, and it might go down a little bit in FPS, but hopefully not too much. We're also going to do a half dart test. I know it's not an official half dart. I don't have very many. I got to find where they all went, but we'll do it with this kind of homemade half dart. But here we go. We're going to test it out here. And I can definitely notice a difference in this blaster. A decent one at that. 88.3. Not bad. $86.1. Yeah, it's a little bit tricky. I tried my Aeon Pros. Adapter, and it has a Dart Zone Pro Mark 3, 4, Pro 2. I can't remember. It's got the Dart Zone mag. It didn't quite work. Modifications down the road for if you want to do half dart mags, but it still works pretty good with half darts if you kind of hand load them. 292. I think it's a little off, but I would say it's going to be maybe up there 90, potentially even 100 FPS. So it's an improvement. Again, you could get more improvement if you go with bigger springs. This is just the Tech 6 upgrade. You could go with, you know, crazy, you know, 12, 18 kilogram springs. They do bigger spring upgrades, bigger kits. There's, of course, tons of body kits and things that make these pump action and all kinds of other stuff. This was just a very quick beginner's mod. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you want to see more modifications in the future, let me know that too, and maybe what you want to see modded. And seriously, as always, guys, just keep on nerfing and keep on modding too.